Hi, it's that fantasy chick back again with another stream. It's Wednesday, and I'm guessing there will be another episode of The Flash today since it's Wednesday. And today we're going to talk about Superman and Lois. And also, there was an article about that seven questions that were left after the end of The Mandalorian season 3. So we're going to start with that. Okay, seven questions we have after The Mandalorian season 3 finale. Spoilers for The Mandalorian season 3 finale if you haven't watched it yet. The Mandalorian season 3 has come to a close, and it certainly took us to some unexpected places. In some regards, it's back to the beginning for Din Djarin and Grogu, while also serving as a fresh start for the Mandalorian people. However, there are still a lot of lingering threads that need to be addressed when The Mandalorian season 4 eventually rolls around. So as we look back on the most recent episodes of the series, these are the big questions we have after The Mandalorian season 3 finale. Are there more Moff Gideon clones out there? Ugh. In the culmination of a 3-season arc, it was revealed that Moff Gideon's obsession with cloning and with Grogu's blood were all about making a clone army of Gideon himself, while giving these clones the force powers he'd never had. We may never know if the experiments worked, since Din Djarin destroyed the clones shortly before he and Bo-Katan Kryze definitively defeated Gideon himself. Although the death of Gideon seemed to be about as final as it gets, we do have to wonder if he truly put all of his eggs in one basket, so to speak. Theoretically, there could be more Gideon clones who might awaken with powers far beyond the original. Please don't. Please let this be the end of Moff Gideon. What happened to Dr. Pershing? After episode 3 of the season spent so much time with Dr. Pershing, it's odd that his fate was never directly addressed in the 5 episodes that followed. Poor Pershing seemed sincere in his desire to use cloning technology to help people. However, Elia Kane duped Pershing into betraying the terms of his work release and left him strapped to a mind flayer device, or at least one much like it, which she turned up to dangerously high levels. Considering Gideon's entire personal agenda revolved around clones, killing one of the galaxy's foremost experts on cloning seems like an incredibly bad idea. Plus, if Gideon had simply wanted him dead, Kane could have easily eliminated him without so much cloak and dagger theatrics. But even assuming that Pershing survived his ordeal in the Mind Flayer device, then we should have at least heard if his brilliant mind was damaged and if Kane is still keeping tabs on him. Can the Darksaber be repaired? For centuries, the Darksaber was a symbol of the power for Mandalore's rightful ruler. Lightsabers are pretty uncommon outside of the Jedi or Sith, and even Moff Gideon coveted the Darksaber and what it represented. Yet during his final battle with Bo-Katan, Gideon crushed the Darksaber and seemingly rendered it useless. A short time later, Gideon's Imperial base was devastated by an explosion. Given that the Mandalorians won their homeworld back, no one even bothered to ask Bo-Katan what happened to the Darksaber, and it's unclear if we will see this iconic lightsaber again. It's also unknown if the destruction of the Darksaber will impact Bo-Katan's ability to hold her people together and remain the leader of Mandalore. Does the armorer have any thoughts about it? And that's a question I had to about the Darksaber. Like, with it destroyed, will people still follow her now that it's destroyed? And especially since it was destroyed by Moff Gideon, so it was taken from her again. So technically it was taken from her again and then destroyed on top of everything else. So is she worthy to still be the leader of the Mandalorians? Will the mythosaur rise again? At the end of episode 2, Bo-Katan became the first Mandalorian in centuries to witness a living mythosaur. Within the Mandalorian culture, these mighty sea beasts had long ago passed into the realm of myth and legends. That's one of the reasons why Bo-Katan only told the armorer about what she saw beneath the living waters in the mines of Mandalore. Even the armorer first assumed that Bo-Katan's encounter was a vision, but viewers know the truth. There's at least one mythosaur left on Mandalore, and it doesn't seem to be eager to revisit the surface. How long has it lived, and how long can it stay undiscovered now that the Mandalorians have retaken their home world? That people revere the mythosaur, and it would be considered a good omen if it does rise again. Grogu seemed to sense his presence in the finale, but we want to see the other Mandalorians discover what's beneath those waters. Did he? I don't remember that. I don't remember Grogu sensing his presence, but maybe I wasn't paying attention. Does IG-11 retain his old memories? Throughout the season, Din was constantly told that it was impossible to rebuild IG-11 without a rare memory chip. Presumably, Din finally got the chip when he made the arrangement with Carson Teva to work with him under the table. Shortly thereafter, the newly rebuilt IG-11 was presented to Greef Karga as the new Marshal of Navarro. Considering that the explosions that tore apart Gideon's base, the remains of the original IG-11 should probably have been destroyed. So it's difficult to determine if this IG-11 is truly the heroic droid Din once knew, or if he is simply a replacement unit named in his memory. How will the Shadow Council respond to the resurgence of Mandalore? As seen in the penultimate episode of the season, Gideon's faction of the Empire was not the only group of Imperial forces in the galaxy. Gideon also made unsubtle moves to shore up his own power within the Shadow Council and undermine Grand Admiral Thrawn's influence. But the one thing that united the Imperials was the desire to crush the Mandalorians before they could retake their planet. Now that Gideon has been vanquished and Mandalore is once again in the hands of his people, will the Imperial warlords of the Shadow Council strike back? The Empire rarely accepts such defeats without planning to make its enemies pay, and even the reduced might of the Shadow Council is still a formidable force. I don't understand their beef with the Mandalorians. I still don't understand why they don't like them and why they don't want them to have to live on their own planet. I truly don't understand. But I guess it's because the Mandalorians must have been resistors. They must have resisted the Empire. Who will Din Djarin's next target be? In the closing minutes of the season, Din Djarin essentially put himself back in the bounty hunter business by making an arrangement with Carson Teva to hunt some of the galaxy's most wanted. This will almost certainly eventually send Din against the Shadow Council and perhaps even push him into the pursuit of Thrawn himself. There's a whole universe of possibilities out there, but will likely have to wait as long as 2 years before The Mandalorian season 4 can give us some answers. Well, here's the thing, because of the second trilogy, they're not going to be successful. The new what do you call it? The new world order, is that what they call themselves? They came back stronger than they were before. They were stronger than they were before in the sequel trilogy. So anything that they're doing now fails. And Grand Admiral Thrawn, whatever he does, succeeds, whether they catch him or not. Please, I hope it's no more Moff clones. Let's close that Moff Gideon chapter. Yes, I do. I want any more. It because this is the third season. 1, 2, 3. 3 is a nice arc. It's kind of perfect. Ended at 3. I just assumed Pershing was dead, or at least brain dead, the way Old Girl maxed out the volume on Mind Flare. I thought he was a vegetable. I thought Pershing was a vegetable. And the question that they didn't bring up was, what is up with girl? What is up with homegirl? And where is her place in the New Republic? Is she still there? Is she still undercover as an agent? Do they know that she was still connected to Moff Gideon? That's my 8th question. What is up with homegirl? I done already forgot her name. I doubt the Darksaber can be repaired, because then it wouldn't only be one. I don't know. I think probably because it was made specifically for the leaders of Mandalore, that whoever made it would have only made one and would have no desire to make more than one. So I think there's still a possibility that it could possibly be repaired. Would love to see just beyond the glimpse of the mythosaur. My thing is it benevolent? But I can't even say it anymore. Is it good or bad? Will it be something they have to fight, or will it be something that they can use as a mascot? Like, is it a why can't I say words? Oh, I can't say words today. Sorry. This is a bad week for me. I actually vaguely remember Grogu looking at the waters funny. Okay. I don't, but I guess I wasn't paying attention. Now, the Shadow Council is another good question that definitely intrigued me for season 4. Okay. It's just Mandalorian so powerful. When they're at full force, the Empire can't have them moving freely like that. Yes, especially now that they have reunited once more and back on their planet with their own resources. Um, on their own planet with their own resources, they'll be much more powerful now, especially once if they keep expanding and keep growing, keep having them cheering. Yeah, I think because it was a special a special relic. There's a reason why they only made one, not because they could only make one. They only wanted one. So I think it's very possible that there could be more than one. That they could either make another one or repair the dark saber. But the question is, more importantly than if it can be repaired, is but I guess in the end they defeat Moff Gideon. So yeah, Moff Gideon destroys the the dark saber. So she had the dark saber taken from her yet again. But in the end, she still ultimately destroys Moff Gideon. So she should still ultimately be the leader because he's dead. So she still should ultimately earn her place as the leader of the Mandalorians. For that alone, I think. But yeah, some of these questions I didn't didn't care too much for, but like I said, the one question that they did not ask that I'm asking is, what about homegirl? Why is nobody checking for her? That's how she got in and cranked up the thing on Pershing in the first place, because nobody was checking for her. But whatever. See, it depends. It depends because remember, there's going to be that movie that's going to take place during that same timeline. So it depends on if that movie comes before or after, because they said it's going to be a couple of years before a season 4. So it depends on if that movie comes before or after a season 4. If it comes after a season 4, then this season 4 could be leading up to the movie. If it comes before the season 4, the movie could, be setting up what else happens in the season. It could either set up what's happening in the season, or it could give the Mandalorian it's a finale. It could end out the story of the Mandalorian in the movie. So it could do one or the other. It could either season 4 could lead up to the movie, or the movie could end the story for the Mandalorian. So I think it could be one of those two things. Okay. So that's it for the Mandalorian. There was learned a lot on Superman and Lois last night. So what I learned was the woman last week at the end of the episode, the woman with the strange face who was fighting Superman and whatnot, when she took off her mask, I knew it was supposed to be somebody important, but I couldn't tell who it was, and he called her by name, and I didn't know what that name was. But apparently the woman was the same woman who is Lois's friend in her chemotherapy sessions. It's Lois's chemotherapy best friend. And apparently Bruno Mannheim's wife. And they have been leading up to it, because all she talks about is her husband. My husband this, my husband that. My husband does everything for me, and blah, 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 blah. So her husband, so this episode did a lot of flashing back to before her and Bruno got married, and how before he took the neighborhood and rehab it or whatnot. He wasn't the person in charge. He was he was answering to, the actual leader, mob leader, gang leader, or whatnot. And he came to him with this idea on how to clean up the neighborhood. He was like, Lex Luthor is taking over Metropolis, but he was like, if we go to Lex Luthor and tell you can have the rest of Metropolis, but leave, this area to us, we can revitalize this area and make it better. And the guy was like, I had no vision. He didn't believe in the plan. He didn't like the fact that Bruno was going behind his back, making all these plans. So of course he wanted to kill him. And Bruno's wife, she had that sonic meta power or whatnot. So he was going to use her to kill Bruno. So he brought in Bruno and all the people in the gang who was going to back Bruno. And then he was like, okay, Pia, that's her name. Okay, Pia, take care of it. So she started using her voice and started killing all the people who was behind him. But Bruno, made a plea to her and was like, oh, I love you and blah, blah, blah. And we could be great together. We could do this and do. talking all that yin yang. And so finally she turns around and she turns her sonic whatever on her boss. And that's how Bruno Mannheim takes over. What is it? Hobbs Bay. Hobbs Bay? I don't know. They also known as the suicide slums. But so that's how he took over. And she had cancer. So that's why he built the hospital. That's why he's doing all of these experiments with Superman's blood, because he's trying to find a way to cure her cancer. And so eventually Clark discovers all of this. He goes to interview him, as Clark Kent, and he sort of, by just talking to him, figures it all out. Like, no, this is personal for you. And breaks it all down, and then realizes that it's Bruno Mannheim's wife. The wife is going through cancer, brings him back to the chemotherapy unit. And then that's when Lois realizes her chemotherapy friend is Bruno Mannheim's wife. And now Lois doesn't know what to think. She doesn't know what to think, because she's like, okay, so this woman who I've been friends with and have been, because that's the woman who she went to lunch with last week. She's been getting close to and wanted to have her come out to the farm and, have fixed her dinner and invited her family and blah, 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 and want to do all these things for her. But that's Bruno Mannheim's wife. So she just had to rethink her whole life. So also at the same time, you had her sons. Her sons are freaking out because they're trying to keep this whole facade and be calm and, try not to worry them. But they're like, we know she's sicker than what she's letting on. And Jonathan is really and truly freaking out. And he's like telling Jordan, taking me to the Fortress of Solitude. And at this they have a family fortress of solitude where instead of Jor-El, it's Superman's mother is the AI. So he's talking to her and trying to get her to use her kryptonite technology to cure his mom. And she's like, I can't do that. I don't know if it will work on her human body. So she's going back, they're going back and forth arguing. And so then Clark comes, and then him and Jonathan argue, and he tells him to go home. And him they and the boys continue to argue about this, especially after the boys find the fact that find her last will and testament. And it's like, okay, you have a will. This is definitely more serious than we thought. So they had to sit down and be honest with them. Okay, they were like, okay, she is more sick than we were letting on, but we did not want to worry you. And so they have their little family heart to heart. And I forget how it wraps up, but it wraps up with them making, they always end with making promises to each other and all having the family group hug, because that's how it always ends. And then then Jonathan and Clark talk on the porch, and they he apologizes for the way he argued with him at the fortress. And so parallel storyline, Black girl Natalie, she was inviting her boyfriend, little black boy from Metropolis, to have lunch with her father. And John couldn't really handle it. He's like, he doesn't, he's trying to figure out how to be the cool dad and, try to be accepting of the fact that she has a boyfriend, because he's always wanted her to do teenager things. And now that she's doing teenager things, he wants to be overprotective when it's the teenager thing she's doing is having a boyfriend. So he gets help from Lana. Lana helps him out, and Lana, sort of steps in and tells him, okay, you need to step back and you need to chill. And so by the end of the episode, he talks with the boy, and he was like, him and the boy, they come to an understanding. And the boy was like, you know what? I would like Natalie to come to Metropolis and meet my family. And I was like, there's something up with that family. I was like, I bet you. And sure enough, at the end of the episode, his mama and daddy is Bruno Mannheim and Pia. Natalie is dating Bruno Mannheim's son. Bruno Mannheim, who has already got John Henry Irons, her father, on his radar, but he doesn't know about Natalie, so he can't use Natalie against him. But if he finds out that John is Natalie's father, then do you see? All the complications that comes with dating a boy from Metropolis. It's like, of all the black boys in all of Metropolis, she had to pick that black boy. Oh my goodness. Why? But there you go. So that's that. And then another storyline was I can't even remember her name. Lana's daughter. Lana's daughter um, having to get over the fact that her father has a girlfriend and mad that the girlfriend's 10 years younger than him. It's like, girl, get over yourself. Your parents are divorced. It's what's going to happen. So she goes through that. They go to the movies. She's going through the girl's purse and finds edibles, and of course this makes her think the woman is cool now all of a sudden. So and so she was like, "Oh my gosh, don't tell your father you found those gummies." Da, 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 da. So, but yeah, Natalie is dating Bruno Mannheim's son. Of all the reveals, like the Bruno Mannheim reveal, Bruno Mannheim is her husband. That me finally realizing she was the one with the that's been going around doing all this stuff to people. And I think in next episode, they're going to realize that P is the one who's been doing all that stuff. I think they're going to realize she's the one with the power to do all that stuff. Um, I think. But definitely what's happening next episode is Lex Luthor is getting out of jail. So because like I almost forgot that Lex Luthor was supposed to be in this season, but here we go. We about to have. I was thinking Bruno Mannheim was going to be the Lex Luthor of the show, but no, we're gonna have for sure, Lex Luthor, and still have Brent. Like, how many villains do we need? We're gonna have villains coming out of our ears. But man, oh man. So it's about to get it's getting good. It's about to get even better. And I don't know what to expect of the show, having both Bruno Mannheim, who, like I said, was giving me Black Lex Luthor, an actual Lex Luthor. So having them both on the board in play is going to be interesting. And Lois having cancer at the same time. So Superman is going to be, if nothing else, distracted. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. So that is all for today. So tomorrow is Star Wars Day. So in the honor of Star Wars Day, my Friday video is a Star Wars video. So so look forward to that. But in the meantime, thanks for watching.